The Life and Death of the Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy.
We might, perhaps, after all, make a few inquiries about our relation, Mr. Henchard, whispered Mrs. Newson, who since her entry into Casterbridge had seemed strangely weak and agitated, and this I think would be a good place for trying it, just to ask, you know, how he stands in the town, if he is here, as I think he must be. You, Elizabeth Jane, had better be the one to do it. I'm too worn out to do anything. 33. If you mount the steps, you can see him. That's Mr. Henchard, the mayor, at the end of the table, a-facing ye. And that's the councilman right and left aw. Lots of them, when they begun life, were no more than I be now. Facing the window, in the chair of dignity, sat a man about 40 years of age, of heavy frame, large features, and commanding voice, his general build being rather coarse than compact. He had a rich complexion which verged on swarthiness, a flashing black eye, and dark bushy brows and hair. That laugh was not encouraging to strangers, and hence it may have been well that it was rarely heard. Many theories might have been built upon it. It fell in well with conjectures of a temperament which would have no pity for weakness, but would be ready to yield ungrudging admiration to greatness and strength. Susan Henchard's husband, in law at least, sat before them, matured in shape, stiffened in line, exaggerated in traits, disciplined, thought-marked, in a word, older. He was dressed in an old-fashioned evening suit, an expanse of frilled shirt showing on his broad breast, jeweled studs, and a heavy gold chain. 3 glasses stood at his right hand, but to his wife's surprise the 2 for wine were empty, while the third, a tumbler, was half full of water. She forgot her daughter, till a touch from Elizabeth Jane aroused her. "Have you seen him, mother?" whispered the girl. "Yes, yes," answered her companion hastily. "I have seen him, and it is enough for me. Now I only want to go, pass away, die. Does he seem to you not likely to befriend us? I thought he looked a generous man. What a gentleman he is, isn't he? And how his diamond studs shine. How strange that you should have said he might be in the stocks, or in the workhouse, or dead. Why do you feel so afraid of him? I am not at all. I'll call upon him. He can but say he don't own such remote kin. I don't know at all. I can't tell what to set about. I feel so down. I don't think I can ever meet Mr. Henchard. He is not how I thought he would be. He overpowers me. I don't wish to see him any more. But wait a little time and consider." Elizabeth Jane had never been so much interested in anything in her life as in their present position, partly from the natural elation she felt at discovering herself akin to a coach, and she gazed again at the scene. But Elizabeth Jane noticed that, though this filling went on with great promptness up and down the table, nobody filled the mayor's glass, who still drank large quantities of water from the tumbler behind the clump of crystal vessels intended for wine and spirits. "They don't fill Mr. Henchard's wine glasses," she ventured to say to her elbow acquaintance, the old man. "Have strong qualities that way. I have heard tell that he sware a gospel oath in bygone times, and has bowed by it ever since. So they don't press him, knowing it would be unbecoming in the face of that, for a gospel oath is a serious thing. Another 2 year, they say. I don't know the why and the wherefore of his fixing such a time, for a never has told anybody. But 'tis exactly 2 calendar years longer, they say. A powerful mind to hold out so long." "When did he lose his wife?" asked Elizabeth. "I never knowed her. 'Twas afore he came to Casterbridge," Solomon Longways replied with terminative emphasis, as if the fact of his ignorance of Mrs. Henchard were sufficient to deprive her history of all interest. "Has he many men then?" said Elizabeth Jane. "Many? Why, my good maid, He's the powerfulest member of the town council, and quite a principal man in the country round besides. He worked his way up from nothing when it came here, and now he's a pillar of the town. I've seen the sun rise over Durnover Moor these 69 year, and though Mr. Henchard has never cussed me unfairly, ever since I've worked foreign, seeing I be but a little small man. Well, I admit that the wheat turned out badly, he said. But I was taken in and buying it as much as the bakers who bought it owe me. And the poor folk who had to eat it whether or no, said the inharmonious man outside the window. You must make allowances for the accidents of a large business, he said. You must bear in mind that the weather just at the harvest of that corn was worse than we have known it for years. Since I have found my business too large to be well looked after by myself alone, I have advertised for a thorough good man as manager of the corn department. But what are you going to do to repay us for the past? Will you replace the grown flour we've still got by sound grain? Henchard's face had become still more stern at these interruptions, and he drank from his tumbler of water as if to calm himself or gain time. If anybody will tell me how to turn grown wheat into wholesome wheat, I'll take it back with pleasure. But it can't be done. Henchard was not to be drawn again. Having said this, he sat down,